progress.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, so one of the reasons I picked this book was it was not too serious, and I mean to like too hard on concepts like reading The Secret Doctrine or many other books which Theosophy presents. So this was a quite a deviation. It was just a bunch of stories that it was the easiest way of learning many concepts of Theosophy without actually engaging in a lot of intellectual circus, trying hard to understand the concepts. So, is it okay? Yeah. On that part, I'm always being a mom, looking at opportunities to impart this great knowledge and teachings to my kids and anybody around me, and sometimes force feeding it to my husband too. So, this was a book which was easily got us together to talk, and it was just telling them stories at the same time, using those stories as a basis to deliver the concepts of theosophy and karma and reincarnation and stuff like that. So I kind of inspired my son to read few chapters in the book just to understand. And he did read the first part of the book, but today I kind of challenged him if he can talk about one life, I would buy him an ice cream. So he, yeah, that is a bribe, but still, an incentive to get him to read and promote theosophy in him and childhood. Laying a good foundation is trying to deceivingly do it with ice cream. It's okay for me. So I think he's going to start off with one life that he studied, and he would like to share what he studied. Do you want to start off? Come. If you want, you can pause the recording. He wants Baskin Robbins.
You want to use the other one?
You want to use this, or you want to do?
There's another mic. Let me get another mic.
No, you can. I can give this to him.
Okay.
Got it?
What? I'm talking about the 37th life. So in this life, he's born to Proteus, and his mom is Mercury. His father is like the head of a temple.
May, can you
in
speak
a
a little
southern
louder,
village of
please?
India. Oh, his father is like the head of a temple in southern India, and then a new man comes to challenge him called Ares, who has like magic and stuff, and then he, huh? Oh, a new man comes from the north, who's called Ares, and he has a lot of magic, and he could connect with the elementals. So he starts challenging his father, and he wins over the favor of the king of that small village. So, and then his Alchemy's father gets mad. Then he tries to win over the king, but then the king likes Ares more, and then he starts experimenting with Ares, and then he ends up dying. But then the over king Mars sends his son Ulysses to start ruling that kingdom. And then both temples are trying to win over the favor of Ulysses. But Ulysses eventually goes over to Ares, and Ares like hypnotizes him into like following him. Then it's believed that Ares speeded up the death of Alkmene's father. So then Alkmene has to take up the position of his father, and then he starts like a court challenge against Ares, and he uses his power kind of to take away the magic Ares has, because he has a strong will at that age. And he eventually frees Ulysses. Then he goes to the Overking, and the Mars invites him to stay at his principal temple in the capital, but he refuses and goes back to his village to help Ulysses. And when the Mars dies, he eventually goes back to that principal temple in the capital with Ulysses, and his son takes up his own temple in his village. That's all. Don't misuse your powers.
Oh, you may have it backwards. You may turn it around. Like this.
Hello?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thanks, Dheeraj. Okay. So as I mentioned last few classes, right, I would not be going into all the lives in detail, but I have like picked and choose few which have had the greatest impact on Alkene's life, and also lives that we can learn a lot from. So this is one of these lives that we have discussed over the past.
You haven't shared the presentation. You may want to go ahead and share.
Okay. No. It's
Yeah, for the folks online.
oh, for the folks online. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Thanks. So this is where we left off, somewhere around, or maybe we went one more, at the 20th life, which was a life wherein Alkene had a female body, and then she saved the baby, Surya, and by virtue of which she was promised that he's gonna like safeguard her forever and kind of be like a protector, and which he continues to be for the next many lifetimes until this lifetime that we know him as J. Krishnamurti, right? So here, now going, we looked at the first few lives lot in detail. So, and I want to pick the last 4 to 5 lives here today, because these are the lives, when you observe the first few lives, you don't see many things happening to him. Like, you know, it's a pretty pleasant lives wherein he is like with among his group of servers, his band of servers, he's reincarnated with them sometimes as brother, sister, mother, brother, and mostly they are involved in the setting up of the fifth root race. They are picked as a band of servers, so they are incarnating together. They are growing together, bonding, forming these bonds over a period of lifetimes. And they use this kind of positive relationships to set up the communities, build the communities of fifth root race, live a very spiritual life, take the instructions to the core as presented by the Manu, and set up the kind of community which the Manu has in his vision that he wants to set up for fifth root race. At the same time, they live a very disciplined life. They are not intermarrying with each other, so that way they are keeping the so to say the bloodline true, and thereby evolving the characteristics of the fifth root race, and thereby setting up the precursors or the forefathers for the fifth root race as per the Manu's visions. Now, by the end of his lifetimes that we have examined, which is the 40th lifetime onwards, we see that the fifth root race is already well established, and many sub-races have already emerged. The first sub-race being the Indian, the second one Persian, and the fourth one is like Iranian or something. The second one is a Persian-Iranian, same, sorry. So that kind of is well established. Now these band of servers are no longer involved in the building of the root race. Now their work has changed. What has their work changed? Because of the righteous lives they have lived previously, now all their karmas they have generated have propelled them, along with the association with the Manus and the other masters who came down to teach, working for them, in their causes, serving for the higher cause. They have created good causes for themselves, meaning good karma for themselves. And when they come to the later part of their lives, which is the 40th life onwards, we see most of these people, of these band of servers, are placed in a position wherein they go through a lot of personal difficulties. But if you see on the outset, you might be like, wait a minute, they did all this good work, and why are they going through so much suffering? Which on the outside it might look like that, but that's not the case, because they have come to a junction wherein they are ready to take the next step. That means they are working out all their bad karmas. So any little bad karmas you can see that they have accumulated knowingly or unknowingly in these last lifetimes, they are working it out. They are put to test, so to speak. And they are being hammered left and right with many life situations at which they end up being in a breaking point. They don't know how to handle the situation. They contemplate suicide. They just give up completely and become like a Breaking Bad situation. But you see at the same time, when the pressure increases, when they get to a state wherein they are in this point of making bad decisions, you always see the masters come to their aid, set them on the right path, give them the necessary knowledge which is required at that point of time. Not that they don't they don't know it, even as much as we know it when we are put into a situation in life, when the karma works its way out on us, there is a time when we resort to despair. We kind of lose faith, we kind of give up on God, we give up on ourselves. So these are the situations they are put in, and then you see that the masters are gently coming in, nudging them towards the right direction, asking them to have a broader vision, not a vision for just one lifetime, and kind of safely helping them navigate through this difficult situation, and promising them that the life ahead and the rewards are waiting for them because of the good karmas. They just have to get through this causes that they have developed, which is the bad karmas, and also strengthen their personality. Strengthen their personality, wherein anytime they undergo these kind of situations, adverse situations, they don't yield in. They know that they're not supposed to do something, and they know that some adverse situation that have come across their way is a way of karma working it out, or trying to remediate what small weaknesses they might have left behind from the previous incarnation. So you can see this lifetimes that his life is not easy. He goes through a lot of difficulties personally and otherwise, and so it's quite a challenging lives that he has to go through. So we're coming now to the out of the 48 lives that we have examined, we're going to look at the last 5, which is 44th life. This life was around 3059 BC, that is 3060 years before Christ. He's in a male body in India. Length of the life is around 81 years he lives. Root race is 5th and sub-root race is 1. So what happens here? Born near Vindhya Hills to an older noble family, Alkani's father Taurus was good but stern and proud. His brother Pollux was the eldest son but careless and dissolute and source of much trouble to the family. So what happens in this lifetime is he's born to a very good man, but he is an older noble family, meaning that his ancestors were very rich, but somehow over the period of years, they have lost all their wealth, but they are still considered as a noble family because of their character, and they have this prominence in the village, and they have this old house, which is half destroyed, and they are living in a small portion, barely able to make ends meet, and they are very poor. Now, Alkani is a second son. He has an elder brother, Pollux. Now, this Pollux is of no good use. We have studied if you have studied the other lifetimes in sequence, we'll see that Pollux is always kind of here and there kind of character. One lifetime he kind of under the good influence, and sometimes his characteristics, weaknesses take over him, is not such a making good decisions. So Pollux in this lifetime, he's of very careless nature. He gets his family into a lot of trouble. It so happens that back in the old days, they believed in astrology, the time and date of birth and as such. So it was determined that Pollux was born under certain stars, such that if somebody donated money to him, or him being of a noble caste, they donated money to him, the person would become rich. So the king was advised to donate some money to Pollux because he was born under favorable conditions. So the king used to give him regular income, like a money. And since they were already very poor, Alkani's father was very happy with that. And he wanted to keep Pollux in the family because he was a source of their income just by being born in that family. But being the nature what he is, he kind of gambles away his money, gets into bad company, makes a lot of bad bets, and then his dad gets him married a girl called Abor, but he's no good to his wife. So one fine day he runs away, he disappears with the money and he's gone. Now the other thing, what happens is now his younger brother Alkani, he is like a twin, like to him, like by looks wise, not by birth wise. By looks wise, he's very, very similar to Pollux, right? So his father contrives a plan saying that, hey, you know what, you start dressing up like Pollux, you go to the king would have given him a position in his administration, right? You start working like Pollux, and nobody should know that Pollux has run away, because we need to have this job, we need to have income to the family, and forces Alkani to take up Pollux's position and cuts off from his friends, so the friends doesn't know that Pollux is missing and Alkani is replacing him. So this continues for a few years, and as it happens with Alkani being a very religious, pious man, he makes good of his opportunity. He becomes very good, works very good with the king, makes good name, and everything seems to settle down. And his father asked him to take his wife, the Pollux's wife has his wife, and he says, no, that's against my dharma. I'm not going to do that. So fine, everything is going fine. This Pollux again gets into trouble wherever he was, and he comes back home, the prodigal son. Now, so what happens? His dad now puts him back into his position, and Alkani now is again asked to step back. What happens? Again, he gets himself in trouble. going to work in the king's administration office, and he commits a heinous crime, and he was about to be sent to prison. Now, his father doesn't want having this kind of bad affection towards elder son. This happens. This we have seen in many families amongst us too. Parents favoring a certain kid for whatever reason that they might have, some kind of bonds that they have established in their previous lifetimes, that they have a great affection to certain kid, and they are blinded because of their love, and they do all the mistakes just because they are blinded towards the love for one kid, and they really do not try to be fair, thinking that they both are their kids. So this is a case that's happening with his dad. He's blinded with his the money that Pollux is bringing into the family, or what, or maybe he had some kind of influence. They both had some kind of long-time friendship from previous lifetimes, that he's blinded for all the activities that Pollux he's doing and the trouble he's causing. He sends Alkane to prison in place of Pollux, right? He convinces. Now, Alkane being soft-natured person, he agrees first because he's kind of a nature who is not going to go against his dad's wishes. He goes to prison for him. But the prison conditions are so horrible that his nature, his body is not built to tolerate it. He goes through a lot of struggle for a few years, and it so happens that the prisoners were not fed food. They literally had to go around begging, and he's starving. His physical body is completely damaged. And at this point, he has a sister, Aqua, who he's always nice to his sister. So she thinks that this is so unfair, what my younger brother has to go through because of the mistakes of the elder brother. She goes to the king, narrates the story, and everything is out, and Alkane is out of the imprisonment. Now, by the time he comes out, his father is dead because he had to go through a lot of shame because of what he had done, and the story had become public in the society, and he dies of heartbreak. And Pollux is again disappeared, committing another fraud, and he's nowhere to be found. Now, Neptune, who is like a head priest in that town, Alkane consults him, and then he comes to know that he does some kind of rituals of puja in the temple to get rid of his bad karma or whatever. Not karma, but bad situation that he is in. And then he gets a dream that there is some treasure hidden in his old house from his ancestors, and kind of things settle down, and he kind of has a peaceful life. But the initial or the mid years of suffering has a lot of impact on him. Like he's always questioning why did he have to go through that, and he can never get over how his dad treated him, or for as much respect he had given. But that becomes a pivotal point for him to understand, or that was a test for him to understand that even the society is working against you, your parents are again working against you. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing personally to do with something is wrong with Alkane. It is just that his soul had to go through that karma which he had accumulated, and it was just things has to happen, it will happen, but him remaining untouched and unmoved by that, not resorting to any anger, resentment, that was a lesson that he had to learn in that lifetime, right? Things are not going in favor, but still he had to keep up to what his dharma was and never sway away from what his actual goal is, the soul's goal, not particularly in that lifetime, he's not able to see that. But on a higher level, that's the message that we are getting there, that how he handled the situation is that it was that he never swayed away. Even as much as his father did bad to him, he did agree him because he was bound to respect his elders, things like that. So next is the 45th life, right? Post that he passes away, spends some time, approximately his lifetime in between lives is by this time he's reached years of 700 years, approximately 600, 500 to 700 years is the interval between the lives. Now, why I mentioned the interval between the lives is, as I mentioned in the earlier classes, the interval between the lives speaks of our spiritual growth. The more spiritually you are evolved, the higher time you get to spend in the causal world or in between planes, where you are given an opportunity to review the life you have led hitherto and learn from those. If you are of a kind who doesn't introspect, who doesn't have the intellectual capability to understand all the actions that you have done, what forces of nature or karma has thrown at you, and you live in anger, resentment that, oh, this is not fair, the life was not fair to me, and you always try to find faults with something outside of you, those will not serve you any purpose. So you will waste your time sitting in the causal world. But if you're a person of spiritual or higher intellectual capabilities, where you're able to recollect all this reminiscence, all these memories of the previous lifetime, go through that, live through that, and kind of understand where you made the mistakes, what you could have done better, what your weaknesses were, what your strengths were, and if you're able to utilize that time for that kind of development, then it serves the purpose. So then your time there would be extended. So he's around, usually it can last anywhere from 10 to 15 years to like 10,000 years. So in one of the cases, it says like Plato spent like 10,000 years between lifetimes because he was so spiritually evolved that it took so much time for him to accumulate and assimilate all that he had learned, and that's the kind of time he gets. Now, if you say 700 years, that means he is somewhere midway, and we can see that from this life onwards, how does that years keep on increasing, because the more difficult life he has, the more time he has to reflect and more rest period he is getting. And then by the time he's coming to the last, he's like at 1,500 years in his causal bodies. So in the 45th life, he's again born in India, and many of his lifetimes have been, on average, they say he has a higher lifetime, and also many times he's been born in India for whatever reason. That's what Annie Besant notes in here. Born in 2180 BC in current Nagpur district in India. Father was Brahmin, mother pious, great parents to alchemy. He had earned the name of Trivedi. Now, there are some surnames which are earned in India. So you all might know what a Vedas are, right? Vedas are the compilation of the God knowledge, like the whole of Sanatana Dharma or Hindu Dharma, or not just Hinduism, it's just a rule book of life, like how life works, what is Dharma. The Vedas is from where all the religions draw their knowledge from. So it is like nobody knows who wrote it. We just know that it was compiled by Vedavyasa at the beginning of the Kali Yuga, which was like 5,000 odd years ago. The Kali Yuga started when Krishna died, so around that time is when the Vedas comes into being, because Vedavyasa compiled everything. Until then, everything was from mouth to mouth. The teacher gives it to the students carry it forward. But when the Kali Yuga started, Vedavyasa understood that the difficult times are here, and people need a little bit more concrete, and people are not going to be dedicating their time to studying the scriptures, the religion, and not dedicated much time, and people are naturally, in the Kali Yuga, what we live right now, we are drawn towards materialistic life a lot more. Materialistic influence is a lot more on us. So he compiled them, wrote it down so that the knowledge is passed down. So if a person can by heart know the 2 Vedas, then he was called a Vivedi. If he knows 3 Vedas, there are 4 Vedas in total. So if he knows 3 Vedas, then it's called a Trivedi. So he earned the name of Trivedi. That means there were 3 Vedas that he was a scholar in. So which takes a lifetime of work. It's not easy. These are very complex Sanskrit shlokas, and to not just by heart them, just to understand them, it's just very, very difficult. So he gets to that state where he's a scholar of 3 Vedas. So he earned the name of Trivedi, 3 meaning 3 again. He married a girl named Al Gold and he became a schoolmaster. He was a very good teacher. At 30 years of age, he had to fight the invaders. His kingdom was attacked by one of the neighboring kingdoms, and he was not of a nature to fight, but he had no choice. He had to pick up arms and fight against the invaders. And during this turbulent period, he lost his pupils and left the school. Like most of his pupils left the school because there's no more school left and the invaders were attacking left and right. Anyway, he met with some financial difficulties during this time. Once things settled down, the kingdom kind of settled down, he met with, he came back, he started his school again. And it so happened that his kids had started growing up. He had 3 kids. And one of his youngest daughter, his name was Mizar, was his youngest daughter. Now, who is Mizar? Is brother Nityananda in this lifetime. But you can see that Mizar has always been born together. They always had a very good relationship with each other. Now, Mizar in this lifetime is born as his daughter. Now, you can, we had mentioned and talked about Scorpio, who is kind of the villain of this whole story, which time and again he's been incarnated and he's been again following the same band, causing trouble, troublesome soul, right? Now, he likes to marry Mizar, but he was not of a good nature, not a good standing. He was not nobleman. So Alkane tries to avoid him, but it gets to a point wherein he wouldn't take no for an answer because he was a rich man. He contrives a plan to kidnap the girl. So one day in the process, he's like trying to kidnap the girl, and Alkane had to fight with him and kind of kill Scorpio. Now, once he's killed, there's a court case which is brought in front of the king, and the king says, oh, fine, yes, we understand why you did it. He was trying to save your daughter. So we cancel all the charges against you. You're free to go. But as mentioned before, some of these souls, even after they die, they stayed in the lower astral worlds, like ghost, what we call, and kind of had the strong ability to influence people who are alive. So Scorpio did the same thing. So Scorpio was always alive in the lower astral world, kind of hovered around Alkane, kind of gave him bad dreams, troubled him a lot. And he was not sure how to get rid of him or how to get over it, but this was happening to him for a long time. It so happened because of all this stress, he fell on difficult financial times, and there was an uncle who didn't have any son or anybody, and he had a lot of wealth. So Alkane goes to him one day and asks him, hey, can you help us out? We have kids and we are not able to make ends meet. So his uncle, being a miser, he kicks him out. But the Scorpio, the soul who is following him, causing him trouble, influences his uncle to run away. And there's an elaborate plan which is contrived, right? So it so happens that a body is found in his uncle's house, and a bunch of people help Scorpio, and then the blame falls on Alkane. The blame falls on Alkane that he killed his uncle for money. As much as he denies, there is circumstantial evidence and he can get out of this blame. And he is imprisoned. And now this again acts against him because there was already a charge in which Scorpio had been killed, but even though he was dismissed of all the charges, they thought that he continued to do this. It worked against him and he is put for death penalty. And at this point, he had kids who are small. His family didn't have any means to survive. He is very sad, very despair, right? Seriously, he is in such depressed, hopeless state, and he's like completely giving up on himself, on life, and his lot of thoughts going over him. Um, at that point, we see that Mercury, who is by this time an Egyptian, or is an Egyptian priest, or not exactly a priest, but a spiritual person from Egyptian race or background. He's traveling in India, and it so happened he had come to this village before, and Alkuni had instantly taken a liking to him, and he had honored him in his house, let him stay there, served him food, given, and they enjoyed each other's company. It so happens that when Alkuni is on his not deathbed, but about to serve his death penalty, Mercury happens to come there. He meets him again, and he lets him know, you know what, I know things have not been fair with you, right? He gives him hope. He gives an elaborate examples of all the times they have been together. He tries to remind him that this lifetime is not just the end of this one lifetime. Many lifetimes they have been together. Kind of it gives him a perspective, and he says that you have some karma that you have to pay off, right? So there is no escaping from it. So even though tomorrow you're going to be put to death, your family is going to be taken care of, I can assure you that, but you cannot escape death, and don't try to escape it too, because it's your karma. Go through it. And he promises that life after life, I'm going to be here to take care of you until we meet the Lord together. So he says that I'm never going to give up on you. Your family is taken care of, but I cannot make you escape from this death penalty, because this is your karma. Just get through it. So he fills him with some confidence. And then Alkuni is kind of soothed because of this kind words of this man, and he trusts him being a spiritual guru, and he dies. He's beheaded. It so happens few days later, his uncle, who was presumed to be dead, is alive and living well, and the king finds out about it, and he's brought in, and then the whole plan falls apart. All the people who are involved and testified against Alkuni is put to jail. And because the king, Ulysses, finds that he made a mistake because of his wrong decision, he compensates the family well, so that they are taken care of their whole life, because of his bad judgment, a wrong man was put to death. So that's how his karma plays out here. He goes through this life. He was not very settled life. He didn't have a peaceful or pleasant life, one after the other, with respect to financial troubles, with respect to his kids' health, or whatever, a constant life of struggle. But at the end, you see how the masters came in at the time where he was completely losing hope. Worst of worst, he's being put to death, but the masters do appear to him and try to nudge him in the right direction, not to give up hope, or make any adverse actions, or try to escape with the death penalty or whatever. So that way, he's paying off his debt karma, which is balance on him. So any thoughts, questions, anybody want to share? No? Okay. So 2 more, and then we can get into a little bit more in-depth analysis. So life 46, which is 1528 BC, as a male in Persia, length of the life is 87, root race is 5th, and sub-race is 3. Alkuni is born in Dipsa in Bactria in the year 1528. He is the son of Hector, and his uncle was Siva. Mother died at a young age and was raised by Vajra, his aunt, and she has a son, Zarathustra. Now you can see that Zarathustra is a master incarnate by himself. He comes in this lifetime to strengthen the teachings of Zoroaster, which was the incarnation of master previous lifetime, which was thousands of years ago. By this time, we see that the people have lost faith in the culture. The culture has been kind of diluted with lot of hearsays. That means a religion, what the initial preacher teaches, it kind of gets diluted once it is passed down from generation to generation, right? So that's the state where Persia is in right now. So Zarathustra takes birth around this time as son of HPB, Vajra, who is an aunt to Alkani now. They both raised together. And this lifetime we see again, he goes through a lot of heartbreak. This lifetime is full of heartbreaks for him. Life after life, you can see that he's going through the same thing. And that means he's being, what Annie Besant says is when the metal is hot, you shape it. You beat it up so that you can shape it. So that's exactly what is happening to his character. Life after life, he's put into all these difficult situations, and he's being tempered to get into the right shape. They're molding him. So all this heat that the karma is providing him is kind of molding him. So his mother dies, his aunt raises him, Zarathustra, Alkani, and Ulysses. Ulysses is the son of the king in here. They grew up together. Now all three are in love with this girl Mizar. Now Mizar ends up marrying Zarathustra. Ulysses is the son of a king, so they wanted a princess bride, so he marries somebody else. But Alkani was so much in love with Mizar that he couldn't forget her. So he just gives up hope, and he's just like heartbroken. And Zarathustra has 3 kids. During third childbirth, she dies. Mizar dies. Now, around this time, due to losing his wife, Zarathustra is in complete kind of renouncing the life. He's kind of like, in a state of despair, and he's like, oh, what is this life? People come, people die, and he's having this moment of absolute awareness that he sees life as is, and then he rescues himself to live in a hermit life in the forest. So he goes away to the forest for 10 years. He leaves the kids with his mom, and Alkani is taking care of his 3 kids. Now, one of the kid is did I write the name? I forgot the name. Anyway, the elder daughter of Zarathustra, when she turns of age, like around 18 to 20 years age, she is in love with Alkani. Even though there is a lot of age difference, they have like 20 years or more of age difference, but she still is in love with him and she wants to marry him. But Zarathustra is back by then, and when he was in the forest, it is said that for 10 years he was guided by Zoroaster himself. He was given the right kind of knowledges that he needs to preach, how he has to revive the culture in Persia, how people have to be brought in and given the right set of preachings. And so that was his task. So he comes in and he says that, okay, he marries off his daughter to somebody else. And Alkani is again heartbroken the second time. So he was deeply in love with the mother, and then he started liking the daughter. And still he couldn't marry both of them, but he was completely heartbroken. Around the same time, what happens, Mercury comes in to guide Zarathustra to give the right preaching. So you can see what is happening here. At one end, the master's work of reviving the religion of Zoroastrian in Persia is happening, and Zarathustra is the messenger who is doing the revival of the religion. At the same time, Alkani is being influenced and being given an opportunity to serve Zarathustra. At the same time, he is working out his own karma too. So if you see that aspect, you can see how this life has been arranged so perfectly so that he's able to work out his karma, at the same time serve the higher purpose too. And Mercury was with him, and he helps him get over this heartbreak. He kind of, again, you can see that this is the third lifetime that Mercury has directly come when Alkani was in a state of despair to help him. The previous lifetime, when he was again is imprisoned, about to be deathbed, about to be beheaded, we see that Mercury comes in to rescue, and here again, Mercury is here again trying to guide him. He acts as a guru of Zoroaster, and at the same time he takes up alchemy as his disciple and he's guiding him. So he serves him faithfully for the rest of his life, and during the old age he passes peacefully, and Mercury is always standing next to him whenever he passes or makes his transition, right? So this kind of gives hope that, that masters, once they pick you up, they kind of what you say, care about you, and they kind of help you out. Now, I would like to take a pause here before I jump in the next lifetime, because we are seeing, oh, thank you. Because we are seeing how these lifetimes of friendship is being played out in each other's life, I would also like to bring attention to what actually Annie Besant writes about this. This one we are seeing as, like, as a story-wise, but in the book, The Laws of Karma, Annie Besant talks about how friendships over different lifetimes helps us. So if we all can turn our attention to Shanti, she will read out that important passage. And I wouldn't do much justice against Annie Besant's own words, so I would prefer Shanti read it out.
All friendships. Another fact of the greatest importance is that we are brought by karma into touch with people whom we have known in the past, to some whom we owe debts, some of whom we owe debts to, who owe debts to us. No man treads his long pilgrimage alone, and the egos to whom he is linked by many ties in a common past come from all parts of the world to surround him in the present. We have known someone in the past who has gone ahead of us in evolution. Perhaps then did him some service, and a karmic tie was formed. In the present, that tie draws us within the orbit of his activity, and we receive from outside us a new impulse of force, a power not our own, impelling us to listen and to obey. Many such helpful karmic links have we seen within the Theosophical Society. Long, long ago, he who is now the Master KH was taken prisoner in a battle with an Egyptian army, and was generously befriended and sheltered by an Egyptian of high rank. Thousands of years later, help is needed for the nascent Theosophical Society and the Master. Looking over India for one to aid in the great work, sees his old friend of the Egyptian and other lives, now Mr. A.P. Sinnett, editing the leading Anglo-Indian newspaper, The Pioneer. Mr. Sinnett goes, as usual, to Simla. Madame Blavatsky goes there also to form the link. Mr. Sinnett is drawn within the immediate influence of the Master, receives instruction from him, and becomes the author of the occult world and of esoteric Buddhism, carrying to thousands the message of Theosophy. Such rights we win by help given in the past, the right to help in higher ways and with further reaching effects, while we ourselves are also helped by the tightening of ancient links of friendship won by service, royally recompensed by that priceless gift of knowledge gained by one and shared abroad for many.
Thanks, Shanti. So as you can see, this is what Annie Besant reiterates in the Laws of Karma, right? She says that these old friendships are very important. Like what we are forming here today is like a kind of brotherhood. It would not surprise me if we had long past been disciples together, and we have been put together in this town, put together into this into the society, environment, or family, wherein we are pursuing our common goal of spiritual aspiration. Right? This has been going on for many years for us, and we are brought into this fold. Now, again, you can see that this is again of pure will. We get up in the morning, we make a decision whether to go to society or not to go to society. We have that kind of will. But if you make the right choices, you have the resources and means that the masters will provide for you to bring you up, raise your consciousness, raise your awareness. It's just that we need to understand our goal, kind of make these choices. As much as we have a free will, we create the causes for the effect too. The more we are interacting here, more we are dedicating the time for the study and like, living or practicing theosophy, which is more important than studying, the more we are creating the good causes that will propel us towards a more supportive family like this. So that's my strong belief. But if anybody differs from that, I'm happy to hear their point too. But that's what she says. When Master Mercury, meaning Master KH, during the early part of setting up the Theosophical Society, he wanted somebody to support Madame Blavatsky and Alcott, and around the same time, he sees AP Senate. Now, how were they linked? In the previous lifetime, when one of the lifetimes when he was born in Egypt, Mercury, back then, Master KH, was imprisoned, and he was helped by one of the nobles, Egyptian nobles, which was AP Senate in his previous lifetime. And he showed him some mercy, helped him to get out of that difficult situation. And Master KH never forgot that favor he got from this kind soul. So when he was given the opportunity to, help, AP Senate now picked it up, and to some extent, for a very long time, he did work for the masters, with the masters, to support and develop theosophy to what it is today. And thanks to his work that we have the master's letters, which was directly written to him. By many of his letters were written to addressed to AP Senate. They had this constant correspondence, and we are given, because of him, we are given this great insights into what the masters think directly through the Mahatma letters. So this is how it works. Like, the old friendships never die. So it's always how the same thing with Master Mercury with Alchemy. You see that constantly he's supporting him whenever Alchemy is in a state of bad karmic, going through a bad karmic effects. He's supporting him, nurturing him like a baby, and trying to help him navigate those difficult situations and bring him ashore. So continuing on that point, we have last 2 points, the last 2 lifetimes, and the last but one is the most important, maybe called a turning point in Alchemy's life. Now, where was he born? Here is like around 630 BC, male, India, in the town of Rajgriha. Father was Jagannatha, a Brahmin priest of a temple, and Mizar was an adopted brother. For the first time in the 46 lives that we have seen, Mizar has always been, for the 46 lifetimes, they have always had a very good relationship, Alchemy and Mizar. Never quarreled, never had any discrepancies. But in this lifetime, even that relationship is tested. That means they are put in such situations that they start to hate each other. They have anger against each other, and it is tested to the extreme. But in spite of that, they overcome those differences of opinions and try to look at the bigger picture. This is like very, I find it very interesting how the karma played out here and how they were put to test. And sometimes we have to examine if we are going through such tough situations with anybody close to us. Maybe we can take this as a lesson to understand that these are the tough situations wherein we have to overcome these kind of repulsive karmic forces, so that we don't lose our love and compassion towards the other soul. Probably it is a testing time. So what happens here is Mizar's father adopts, Alkani's father adopts Mizar, and they grow up together. Now, Alkani's father is a nice person, but he is kind of having this bad dealings going on with the temple. He's a temple priest. It so happens that he manages the temple, and say he's managing for the month of May. Whoever pilgrims come across that to the temple, and whatever donations they make in the month of May goes to Alkani's father. And say the next month, June, is managed by some other priest, then all the offerings he gets in the temple for the month of June goes to that other priest. Now this Alkani's father gets too smart, and he so makes it such that he has his spies around the outskirts of the city, and he makes sure most of the most lucrative, that means rich pilgrims come to him when he is the priest. So that way he gets more offerings. So this is kind of a shady dealing he's been doing. And around this time, we can see that the temples practiced a lot of animal sacrifice too. So there was a lot of animal sacrifice going on, and they made a lot of money out of it. Now, these are two things that Alkani doesn't like. Alkani, being the eldest son, post his father's death, he takes over the priest position, and his brother Mizar is very influenced by his father's dealings. That means he thinks it's the right way to do it. That's how we have to keep our dominance in the village. That's how we can become rich. And he wants to continue on the path which his dad took. But Alkani, on the other hand, is completely against it. He says that no, that's not the right way to do it. Whoever comes. Whatever they offer, it's their offering. And he was completely against animal sacrifice. So there's always this constant clash between them based on their fundamental principles. Alkani, being the eldest son and being in charge, he continues with it. Now, Mizar is married to another person called Thetis. Now, this Thetis is an extremely vicious person. Now, she poisons her husband Mizar's brain, saying that her son, their son, should take over the priesthood instead of Alkani's son. So they contrive a big plan wherein they instigate all the rest of the priests, saying that Alkani is fit for no good, he needs to be expelled, and they put some fake charges against him, and he is expelled out of the country. The king believes what they all say, and Alkani and his son is exiled out of the country. Now they have to live outside the city, where in very poor condition. So his son catches malaria, and he's gravely ill because of this extremely bad conditions, poor conditions that they are living. And they are barely able to make ends meet. So his son is so sick that his body never recovers. He's always been weak, and he loses the capability to breathe properly. He has a weak chest. He's going through a lot of things. It so happens around this time, the king dies, and his son takes over. Now, the king's son is friend to Alkani. He brings him back from exile, puts him back as a head priest. That doesn't go well with Mizar and his wife at all. What do? They just somehow wants to get rid of Alkani, right? So they poison the little baby, the little kid, the 7-year-old. They give him slow poison every day, and which he dies at the end of it, which is very heartbreaking for Alkani, because he had only one son, and when he learns that somebody, his own sister-in-law, poisoned his son, that is like the utmost pain he can go through. Imagine you coming back and putting your kids in a situation where they get poisoned and killed. So he has so much anger and hatred, and he doesn't know what to do. He exiles them, he files a complaint against them, and they are exiled into the same place where he was, right? But he doesn't have any peace of mind left, because he lost his only son. He doesn't know why he's living. He's again in completely depressed. So happens, around that time, Lord Buddha, Gautam Buddha, got enlightened, and he was in incarnation. So Lord Buddha comes around to that city where he was living to give a sermon. And Alkani happens to attend the sermon, and he is greatly influenced by the teachings of Lord Buddha. So he understands that the reason for his suffering is not his sister-in-law, not his brother, but his own karmic deeds. So to the extent that he believes that what he hears, it kind of is a moment of light bulb going on. He immediately forgives his sister-in-law, forgives his brother, brings them back. He says, that's it. I have found the purpose of my life. He renounces all this life. He goes and falls to the feet of Buddha and pleads him to take him up as his disciple. Now, Lord Buddha, who had already known the soul, Alkani, for many lifetimes, he accepts him. Now, Mizar and his wife have repented that they also attend the sermon. They kind of are influenced by the Buddha teachings. But he says that, no, you guys have more work to do. Go back to living your life. At this point, I just take Alkani as my student. So he becomes his disciple, lives the rest of his life with Buddha, travels up and down the whole of North Indian plain, establishes many monasteries, spread the word of Buddha, and he kind of dies in a peaceful state. But during his monastic life, he comes across another senior disciple of Buddha, who is called Dharmajyoti or Uranus or Arya Sangha, who is now Master Jwalkul. Over there, he is under the direct tutelage of Master Jwalkul, and the previous lifetime, its name was Dharmajyoti, right? So they have that bond going on over there. We can also see around the same time, Mercury, Heracles, Orpheus, Mars, Rama, Seva, everybody is being born in one or the other capacity when Buddha is incarnated. And it so happened that all these people there was an impetus within them just by being close proximity to Buddha, that they increased their spiritual growth exponentially in that lifetime. So after this lifetime, you see that there was so much change that happened in Alkani. His interval between the life is 1,500 years. He spends 1,500 years just assimilating all the spiritual growth that happens to him. And the last, 48, is the last but one life that we know of him. So here is again born in India in 1624 AD this time, and the length of the life is around 70 years. Now here, he was the son of a Brahmin, Jaishekhar, in Kanyakubj, UP, India. He was around the same region. His second birth is around the same region where his previous birth was. His name was Upasena by birth, but later took to Dhammalankara. He so happens that he fell in love with Ajax, and this lifetime you can see that he's been tested if he can lead a monastic life. So he falls in love with this girl, but his father and mother want him to take up monastic life and become a Buddhist monk, which he does. And because of his previous karma, which he had a link with Scorpio, which really, this Scorpio and you can see Alkani have been going back and forth. So Scorpio now again comes back in a woman's body, and she tries to entrap him in some kind of false allegations, but he was relieved of it. And then the monastic leader sends him on a pilgrimage to all the monasteries in North India. And it so happens that he takes the same path which he had taken with Lord Buddha 1,500 years ago. And during this path, he kind of remembers that he had been here, he has done something, or something like, he kind of vaguely remembers. And during this process, a lot of transformation happens to him. He kind of remembers his teachings from Lord Buddha. A profound transformation is happening within him, right? When he comes back to Kanyakubj, almost like a year after, he meets Dharmajyoti, Arya Sangha. It's like, the previous lifetime, his master. He meets him again, and he's greatly influenced by his teachings. Now, Arya Sangha, around this time, I think it is like the last lifetime of him before he gets initiated. He travels to a monastery in Nepal. He takes alchemy with him. And it is said that in that lifetime, he wrote the Book of Golden Percepts, which the stanza of Jaisen included many quotations from the writings of the great Nagarjuna. So this is where, this is a book on which HPB wrote the Voice of the Silence book. Like this monastery which we are talking about in Nepal is a same monastery HPB stayed in this lifetime in Tibet. They say in Tibet, but back then probably it was somewhere in Nepal. Not sure, but it says that it's the same place where the Book of the Golden Percept, or starting the stanza of Jaisen, is included, and this was Alkane writes a commentaries on that. After his service over there for a few years, he comes back to his own monastery in South India, in the North India, and he goes back and forth. The rest of the lifetime, half the lifetime, he's over there. When Dharmajyoti passes away, he goes back. He sets up the monastery in the right order, makes a right succession path, comes back. He lives in the same Kanya Kunj monastery after serving great deal to human upliftment. So mostly in this lifetime, you can see that he is completely moved away from family life, not getting entangled in the karmic bondings of the materialistic world, and he's kind of being trained in the later half of the last lifetime, and this lifetime he's completely into the Buddhist teachings and preachings of the same. So he's more like monastic life, getting trained for it. And the next lifetime, we know he's born in the South India as J. Krishnamurti, being picked up by Annie Besant and Leadbeater in the beach, and then the whole training happens, and we know the rest of the story, right? Any questions? I think it was written originally by Mercury. Huh? Yes, that's Master KH. Master KH, when he was born as Nagarjuna. Yeah, Nagarjuna is one of the famous Buddhist disciples. Okay. Now we come to the last part, which is the laws of karma. So going through all these lifetimes, I just want this to be a more of a discussion part. I want you to kind of brainstorm and see which part of it you found the karma working out in all these lifetimes that we have discussed, and how that has influenced you to understand from the story, or what you can relate to the most. Anybody wants to go first? Shanti. No, I just want to understand how all these stories, how you can relate to them, and how do you see the laws of karma playing out, or
I believe, yes, from all the stories, your actions matter. Your thoughts matter. And having good intentions and good thoughts in whatever, like you mentioned, I agree. Whatever is happening, good, bad, right, or wrong, we have to accept it as we are either clearing the past or whatever, and moving forward with good intentions and good thoughts, good actions, to build up the good karma. That's my understanding.
Thanks, Shakti. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Well,
Yes, Jamshid.
What I've learned from this is that there is no concept of repentance or forgiveness in karma. Whatever you do, you cannot, like in the Catholic tradition, where you go to the priest, do confession, and then get penance. There's nothing like that in karma. Am I correct?
Yes, Shanti, go ahead. To partly it is correct, but partly what I have seen in the book Laws of Karma, what Annie Besant writes is sometimes if you deeply repented, not that you have to go to a Catholic priest and say your confessions, but if you deeply regret it at your state that you are inflicting pain upon you're going through the pain which you would have suffered going through that karmic effect, sometimes those causes are nullified. But only when you have a very deep regret for it and you kind of spend your rest of your lifetime just thinking about it and feeling sorry about it that you would not have done it in hindsight, or you would not have done it if you knew better, or post doing it you got this awareness and consciousness that what you did in the past was wrong, and you repent for it deeply, then she says that ripples, the waves of karma coming towards you can be smaller, like, can be nullified to an extent. But in most cases, she says that that kind of deep repentance, she says that is commonly not found, very, very commonly not found in humans. Because the ego kind of still stops us from repenting so much that we cannot pay off the debt of karma. So definitely it is going to affect you in some way.
How about you also in the story it was like the forgiveness part. I think forgiveness is important.
Yes.
Forgiveness and bringing that awareness. It has to start with awareness that we did something wrong or that action, and being able to forgive is also sometimes egoistically we don't want to forgive or something, right? But then not just forgiving others, also forgiving yourself. Sometimes we unconsciously, not knowingly, do hurt people, right? So I think that's an everyday act of
Yes.
forgiveness.
Yes.
It's important.
Definitely. That was a test which Lord Buddha gives to Alchemy. Because when he comes and he says to him, Lord, I want to be your disciple. And the first question Lord Buddha asks him is, do you forgive your sister-in-law who killed your son? To the deepest of your heart, within your heart, if I, peep in there and see, can I see that there is not a bit of hatred or anger towards her? And he says yes. And he passes that test because Buddha examines him and he says that he's completely forgiven whatever she has done. So as much as anger he did have for half part of his life, but when he came to in contact with the knowledge, when his ignorance or maya was lifted from him, he completely 100% went with it. For us, see, as much as we learn the knowledge, our maya or our ignorance are still blinding us, right? We know we can learn about as much as the karma and the effects, but tomorrow we still have that anger within us, or discontent, or we are questioning. To some extent, we are not perfect. We are working our way through it. There's nothing wrong in the state what we are right now, but that forgiveness is one of the main characteristics that they look at, that you just let go.
So my question is, isn't repentance like forgiveness? Because when we go in, like, forgive me, Father, I have done this. Isn't that, why is it different then?
I don't know. Repentance is something for mistakes which you have done personally onto others. Forgiveness is something probably which others have done onto you, which you don't think fair, and you still have to forgive him and love him equally as much as your friend who's been loving and kind to you. Love your enemy like the same as you. see that it might be the same, but it is like a two coins of the two faces of the same coin. Like you forgive yourself and also you forgive others, right?
Or ask for forgiveness.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we also have to ask, because it's two sides, right? Not only others done to us, we make to others.
Yeah,
Asking
true,
for
true.
forgiveness,
Yeah,
right?
accepting our mistakes and asking
So,
that it's the
yeah.
first step too. Yeah.
So that's why I'm wondering why repentance doesn't work as well. I mean, what was said earlier, right? As repentance, it is forgiveness of what you've done.
Anybody wants to add?
I have a question.
John.
I think the Buddha said, stop the bad and do the good, right? Repentance, we are going to stop the bad.
Yeah.
And then forgiveness is what people have done, things against you, you let it go. So that you'll be free to move on.
Yes, Jamshid, you had a question?
Yeah, in life number 46,
Mhm.
you say that Zarathustra went in a cave for 10 years and was influenced by Zoroaster. That is kind of confusing to me because Zoroaster is the Greek name, the name that Greeks gave to Zarathustra. So they're one and the same person, unless I'm
Oh,
missing
yes.
something.
Yes, that's what I thought actually. But when I read the book, that's what it is mentioned. It is mentioned that Zarathustra was guided in his astral when he was in living as a hermit's life. He comes to him and he teaches him the lost religion. And it is also mentioned that by that time it has been 1,000 years since Zoroaster came and gave the knowledge of the fire. He preached about fire, right? The importance of fire, Zoroaster.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's what it is mentioned. So that's when I came to the understanding probably Zoroaster was a master and Zarathustra was his disciple who came to revive his teachings. At least that's what it is mentioned in the chapter. I can send you that chapter's photocopy if you want to read about it. It's very fascinating. So you can read about it and kind of help me understand too, because
Okay.
I do
Yeah.
not honestly have much in-depth knowledge about Zoroastrian history of how it evolved.
Well,
Huh?
Annie Besant,
It's not here.
Fali, yes, we miss Fali, and
You spoke for me already. Oh, you did?
I can share that with you,
yeah, I'd
Jamshed,
like that.
if you
Yeah,
wanna.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll send you page 40, like 46 for you, the whole chapter, so you can read
Well,
about
Annie
it.
Besant had written a small book on
Ah, yeah,
Zarathustra
yeah.
where she
Zarathustra.
said
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
Zarathustra had come to the earth 16 times. Uh,
Um,
and Fali had that book and I read it. But, so,
I think I have that book too. I've never read it, but those are one of those books that I bought with enthusiasm from Adyar. I think I have it. Is the lives of Zoroaster or the history of Zoroaster or something like that? Huh? No, I think it has a white binding on it, and it's like a small book. This small book. I think I might have it somewhere in my bookshelf. I have to look at it. If I find it, I'll definitely read and share, Jamshed. I really had the same question what Jamshed asked. I was reading about it. Wait a minute, isn't Zoroaster the name for Zarathustra the same for Zoroastrian culture or religion teacher? But I didn't question what was written in the book, I just translated. Yeah, Shanti, you had something? No. Okay. So I picked up some of this from the Laws of the Karma book, which kind of applies to the book that we kind of finished right now. So you can see that the main conception of karma, she says, is as man soweth, so shall he reap. So whatever you sow, you're going to reap. This we have seen time and again, how this plays out with Alkani's life, Orion's life, or in Scorpio's life, because people who continue to be good or bad, they keep on getting themselves in the same kind of situations. Karma is a law which is eternal, changeless, invariable, inviolable, law which can never be broken, existing in the nature of things. So this is what she says. It is the law. It is like the eternal law. You can never run away from it. You cannot change it. Whatever it is like a software which is being programmed. And she says also, if any spiritual being comes into incarnation into this world, he is again bound by this laws of karma. So that way he has an extra responsibility to work such that he doesn't entangle in this law, because even his masters cannot untangle him, because he has to come back and pay it off, because that's how the law works. And karma is a law of laws. You must not interfere with anyone's karma. Like say for example, if somebody was bound to go through, like say for Master Mercury, when he knows that Alkani didn't do any mistake, but next day he's going to be beheaded, he had probably the powers to make him escape, make him, for that lifetime he would have helped him, he would have soothed his anguish, and maybe he would have made him, like, gone to the king and told him that his uncle, who is falsely accused of, falsely thought that he's been dead, is alive. Many things he could have interfered in the process and influenced the outcome of Alkani's life in that lifetime. But that was not to be done. See, karma is a law of laws, and you must never ever interfere in anybody's karma, even though if you have the power to do so, right? Karma is natural.
Can I ask a question? From the point of view of the masters of wisdom that can look at our lives, know the causes and what we are doing, for them, maybe that is, they are not supposed to interfere.
Yes.
But for you and I, who don't have a whole history of somebody's life, and if a situation comes in our way, and we see that we can help, we should just go.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
We shouldn't say that, oh, I shouldn't interfere with this person.
Oh yeah, that's a very good point. Very good point, John. Yes, that's very true. If you are in a situation that you see a beggar on the street and he's very hungry and poor, and then you think, oh, that's his karma, I have nothing to do with it, let him. No, if you can help him, definitely go help him. Like, don't think that it is his karma. If you see a kid being hit by a bike and you are able to pull him away from there, don't think, oh, that's his karma, I'm not going to do it. No, that's not how you're supposed to work. You just do your action. Forget about the consequences of it. But if you are in a position to help somebody who is going through a bad situation for whatever reason, definitely we have our dharma. Our dharma says that help any person who is in trouble, you are able to help them, definitely we have to help them. You do not have that right to decide whether it's his karma, I let him suffer. So that part of becomes your karma too. So, so definitely that point is a very good point, that you must not interfere with karma is from a very higher perspective for the master's level. But if we are able to help to any small extent to anybody, definitely we should do that. Karma is natural law in the full sense of the term. It is universal causation the law of cause and effect. It may be said to underlie all special laws, all causes and effects. Okay. I was looking for a point that I thought I wrote. Okay. Three types of karmas that we create: action, desire, and thought. So this is very interesting for me, that in any waking consciousness, we always, every day, as soon as we wake up, we start doing karma in 3 points. One is with our action, with our desire, and even by our thought. The thought of even harming somebody, the thought of even wishing somebody bad, thought of even wishing somebody good, everything builds up into our karmic structure. So she says that the karma first starts at the thought. Action, most people don't do action karma because nobody's going to go like kill somebody, steal somebody. Probably we might have controlled the action, but the desire and the thought is where we struggle a lot. That is like waging an uphill battle, controlling that thought. And she says, it has been the laws of the intelligible relations between eternal principles and transitory events that has rendered modern religion so inoperative in common life. So this was very important statement. I thought the way she packs the whole process, like, of how this world has been structured to today's date, it's like the relationships. Today's religion, my understanding is today's religion, we are failing to understand the relation between eternal principles and the transitory events. Transitory events meaning the things that are happening in our day-to-day life, like the kind of parents we have, the kind of kids we have, the kind of family we have, the kind of job we have, the boss we have, everything, or the house we have, the place where we are living. All these are transitory events. They keep on changing. But they're all are determined by the eternal principles, right? And there is a link between those. Those eternal principles are the one which is deciding my transitory events in my lifetime, right? These are all transitory because it comes, it goes. 30 years back, I was born into this world. Probably 20 years from now, hopefully, or in the next 30 minutes, who knows, I might be dying. I might be dead. But what happened in this lifetime of me is a transitory event, and those events are linked, are completely dictated by my eternal principles, the laws of karma. And you have to make a intelligent association. What is happening to me is because of those principles which are guiding, and the causes which are determining my life today. Now she says the religion today is failing to make this connection for the people. So that's why religion is not serving us the purpose that it should serve.
So how do we teach people to connect with the eternal principles?
Yeah.
Through meditation?
It can be study. Yeah, knowing the laws of karma, knowing how today the struggle even is to convince, like 90% of the population doesn't even believe in reincarnation, right? So imagine how would you convey the message of eternal principles of karma coming back to you when they don't believe in reincarnation. So that is the greatest flaw that religion or the people who spread the message of the leaders of the religion kind of left out those principles for whatever reasons. It was not passed down. As it says, Christianity and Islam in their original did have reincarnation as a fundamental principle. For whatever reason, people who picked up the preachings and passed it down to generation kind of omitted those things, and today we are having a bunch of society who doesn't believe in reincarnation. Then you cannot explain to them what karma is and the eternal principles are. So that's where she says that the religion today is failing. And meditation is built upon the law of thought. For meditation is only deliberate and persevering thought. aimed at a specific object and hence is a potent karmic cause. By using knowledge and thought to modify character, one can bring about very quick desired results. She says that meditation is the potent tool because if you can use your thought to deliberately and persevering thought towards aimed at a specific object, like say to what you want to meditate upon your immortal life, or you want to meditate upon how life is transitory, like the immortal soul and life is transitory, or meditate upon some of your strengths and weaknesses, how you want to overcome things like that. She says if you put a specific or deliberate thought every day meditating on a certain virtue you want to inculcate in you or a certain character that you don't want in you, so that brings about a very quick desired change. That's the easiest way how you can build your character, by putting your thought every day deliberately towards a certain even object, specific object. And she also says, she gives one warning, like say for example you have certain weaknesses that you want to overcome. She says don't keep thinking about, oh my god, I get angry very quickly, I don't want to get angry, I don't want to get angry, I don't want to get angry. Don't give your thought towards not getting angry. Give your thought towards being peaceful. Imagine yourself being peaceful. Imagine the world breaking down, the house is upside down, kids yelling, things happening not according to you. You imagine, don't imagine not being angry. Imagine being peaceful. Like imagine the opposite of it. So that helps you bring about that virtue more strongly within you. So I think these are some of the points that I wanted to touch base on. Hope this has helped in some way to anybody. If not, it was just a story session. You can take it as a story session, but yeah, these are these two books I read through it. I definitely have not even laid out even 1% of the details which are in the book. I try to do the best in like pack them into hourly lectures, but definitely feel free to read those books and correct me if I did anything wrong, anywhere wrong, or if you have a better interpretation of some of the lives, I would be happy to discuss about that. And thank you, Tret, for giving this opportunity, and thanks everyone for bearing with me for 4 classes now. Yes, John.
Well, I guess maybe I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for, there's a lot of work going through all these lives. We know that Krishnamurti, HPV, all these lives that you touched on, during their last incarnation, they basically became adepts. So in these lives, did they say, when they got some of their previous initiations?
Did they what? Sorry.
Did they mention in the book when they got some of their previous initiations?
Only one thing that is mentioned is when Lord Buddha gave his sermon. Most of the people who were there, who listened to his sermon that in Sarnath, they got initiated immediately to Arhat level. I think it's the first or second initiation, first level, right? Arhat? I think it was the first initiation. Most people reached that level because his outpouring or his, is push, that energy which he gave towards them was able to push many of them towards the Arhat level. So that's the only mention I have seen in the book where talks about initiation. But as I see in the book, we see that Master Mercury, Mars, which is Master Maurya and Master KH, and what was the other one? Surya, Lord Maitreya, they all by when Alchemy is by 25th, 26th lifetime, they are already getting into the initiation levels, because you can see that they have some spiritual awakenings. They have like clairvoyance developed sometimes, and you can see that slowly their incarnation is far less, and they are coming in as a spiritual teacher kind of positions. So we can see that they went ahead of them. Although in the first lifetimes, which is like, 100,000 years back, they all were born as moms, dads, kids like that for 10 to 15 lifetimes. But we see the shift that these three people start developing faster and going higher and higher. And by the later lifetimes, they come back as teachers to these people.
Okay.
Thank you, Vidya.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd like to summarize a little bit on my thought on the law of karma. I think most of it had to do with reflection, right? I mean, all of this story is useless unless you start reflecting on it.
Oh, yes.
The same thing with your life as well. The event that happened during your life, whether it's good, bad, however you think, you often review the event and you say, oh, at that point in time when it happened, I view that as something bad that happened to me. But perhaps 2 decades from now, or 2 decades later, or 3 decades later, or even further than that, you look back at that and you say, that's a blessing. And not so much a bad thing that happened to you. And I think what happened here is with the entire story behind all his lifetime, it gives us a better perspective of what happened to him when he go through all these lifetime, the learning that he able to go through, and hopefully the reflection and the knowledge that he gained out of it. And the same thing with the law of karma. Law of karma is nothing more than helping us to go through the experience, develop the experience, learn from the experience. And really, at first when I come to Theosophy, I'd say that really as a development of the human, once we graduate from the human stage, law of karma is no longer bound to us. But the more I learn from the secret doctrine, that's not really true. The law of karma is even bounding the Dhani Chohan. They have to actually come back and become human. So, I mean, law of karma is a lot more than just the human stage. So, it's just like anything, it's by nature. I would say law of karma is nature itself. And until you actually learn that lesson, you're not going to overcome that. So the more that you can learn to reflect on what has happened to you and how you can put into practice what you have learned and the experience that you have gained, the better it is for you to grow spiritually. And if I were to put this thing into a practical perspective, like be able to take what is in Theosophy, like to the common man on the street, I would say the best analogy would be something more like the term delayed gratification. If you learn, you can talk to people on the street, you say, yeah, the society that we live in now is instant gratification. We can order something from Amazon, the next day it's there, right? You don't have to wait anymore. We go to fast food restaurant, we order something, we expect it within 5 minutes, or else the kids start yelling, what happened? The mentality of the society these days is with all the social media and everything is about instant gratification, when really the focus should be on the delayed gratification. Because unless you experience that pain, you don't appreciate what you need to solve, right? I mean, you look at an issue, Because what happened is the society grow and evolve by looking at the issue themselves. If I go to a place that I need the service, I need to get some service, and that place is taking forever to do that thing. If I look at it from a perspective of improving that, I say, oh, there's a better way you can do this, right? So instead of just focusing on looking at the immediate bad thing, focus on what you can do to improve it, right? I mean, the mindset is completely different. So let's go back to what you say about Annie Besant. Don't focus on your anger. Focus on something that is productive. Focus on something that can make it different. Change that. Something that you can do, something that you have control over, not something that is controlled by the world outside of you. Because what happened these days, like the people, for example, a guy cut in front of me, right? Like, I can get mad at that guy, but it didn't solve anything, right? I mean, like, okay, but oftentimes we get so emotional, and even I do that all the time. My wife keeps having to remind me, but we got caught up in our emotion, and then we lost it. So meditation, I think, is the key. Meditation is the key to kind of like to bring us back to the center, and not so get caught up in that emotion. That's what I would say. Well, I want to thank you very much for just spending the time. I mean, it's a lot of time and effort just to put together this material, and I'm very grateful to that you share with us.
Well, thank you, Jake, for clarifying that karma doesn't start at the human level. It's everywhere, and it's immutable, and it's pervasive. It's constant. It's never stopped. So the teaching in the past, talking about karma, only we incur karma when we get to a human kingdom. That was incorrect.
Sorry?
Another point of the karma is every action create a link, whether that is a good action or a bad action. So karma is always become more compounded at every action that you have, starting from every thought that you create. Because karma is eternal, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Karma is immutable.
Yes.
So no one can mess with karma. No one can do you a favor, forgive you, make your karma go away. Period. The only priest that you have is your good action. Your good action is your priest, not the guy that you go to and ask for forgiveness. Because karma is immutable. Mm-hmm. How can you modify something that's immutable? By asking somebody else forgive you, you just forget about what you just being taught. So the thing to get out of here is every thought has a link. You bond it. You give some money to a guy on the street, you cause a link with that. That action just created a link between the two beings. From that point forward, you, at some point, and that being will be meet up somewhere down the line, whether down in that same lifetime or the future lifetime. Because that link, you just established that. Now, if you say you don't do anything, you have bad thought about that person on the street, you should go to work and just, instead of standing there and begging for money, you should also just create a link.
True. Very true.
So from that point forward, you and that person have a negative link. Because why? Karma is immutable. It doesn't have any favoritism. So it's good to be repent, to reflect on yourself that you need to go back and fix whatever it is that you caused, disharmonizing. But having that doesn't mean anything until you actually restore that harmony. The principle of karma is restore always. It does one thing. It go back to the harmony level, just like water. Water does one thing. It go back to its natural state, leveling everything out. Karma does the exact same thing. You shift something by doing some good thing, you just cause a turbulence. You give something with doing bad thing, you just cause a turbulence. Karma doesn't care whether you do good thing or bad thing. It always goes back to its natural state, which is harmony. Am I making sense?
Yeah, yeah, true. Because this can be seen in the state of the masters. When you reach to the end of your spiritual journey, that's the state they want you. They don't want you having any good karma or bad karma. You are in neutral. You have to be that neutral state of karmic existence, where even if you take birth, you're not incurring any bad karma, which will bring you back down. So that state, what you speak of karmic neutrality, is what needs to be achieved. Even a soul which has greatly evolved, I hope I'm getting this right, but there is this one saint who's called Ramanujacharya, who took birth in India 800 years ago. And he's a great saint, right? But he had some karmic content that he had to get rid of. He took birth. He lives a very pious life, and he did great. He wrote a treatise on, like, he introduced we had the Advaita, then we had the Dvaita, then he came up with the Vishishta Advaita concept of Hindu religion. But he has a very troublesome life. Like, his wife is not cooperating. He's so evolved that his teachers are offended that the small kid knows more than him. They try to kill him so many times. He goes through a very turbulent life. If you look at his life, we would think, why is this guy who's a great saint being punished so much in his life? But as you mentioned, right, he had some karma that he had to neutralize before he could step forward. So that's what draws him down. Now, an interesting concept I learned recently from listening to Sadhguru was, when you are as a disciple under a trained teacher, they can test you. You come with three types of karma. Prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma is a karma which you have already done, which you already created the causes. You come in this life, you have to pay it forward. And the second one is, sorry, I'm not able to remember the term, but the karma which you're doing right now. So if the circumstances are right, it will immediately you get a chance to pay it back. And some karma you carry it forward, but which is not yet downloaded into you, because it's there as a reserve, because you are given only as much as you can carry, right? So slowly it is being dispensed to you. So, but some certain gurus, what they can do is, if you see that you are reached a certain level, they can dispense a little bit more karma onto you so that you pay it off faster, so that you don't have to go through another 10 incarnations to pay it off. So that is something which some gurus, they can do it. Yeah, they can do it. There is a talk about this clearly with Sadhguru, if you want to look it up on YouTube about his karma talk. Definitely he explains that. And because sometimes, say I come in to this life with a bunch of karma that I have to pay it off, and my life is charted out saying that, okay, I'm going to be born here, I'm going to be living here, I'm going to work here, I'm going to have a very horrible boss for like 10 years, and then I have to work through that karmic process. But in the process, what happens is I shift my life. I become a disciple of Sadhguru. Now, none of those karmas are working out because I went and I am dedicating my life in a monastery. I become a Buddhist monk or something like that. But these gurus, they kind of tend to keep your karma flowing so that you are still paying it off, even though you are not in that circumstance. Say for 10 years, I had to go through a horrible boss, and I had to learn the virtue of patience, virtue of forgiving, virtue of seeing that what his point of view was. And say by being with like an ashram or in a Buddhist, taking Buddhism and being in a monastery, I learned that. Very quickly I learned it. I didn't need 10 years to learn it. I immediately learned it 1 or 2 years. So that 10 years of karma is like, I'm done with my lesson, right? The same thing happens if you learn your lessons faster, you end up going back, getting more. If you need more, because you already have 10 years, but you learned your lessons faster, you need to dispense a little more and pick up the next lesson. Like you passed your exam in your first semester, and you have the rest of the semester, 3 semesters to do your medical, and you finished all your exams. What do you do for the next of the year? You pick up the next MD course and start doing that, something like that. So he talks about that. So I do agree with you completely. we need to get to that neutral karmic state. And one more interesting thing I learned was, say, Lord Buddha. He was a Jagat Guru before he became Buddha, right? Before he took incarnation as Siddhartha, in which life he enlightened and became the Buddha. So Jagat Guru, he was already a Jagat Guru, world teacher by then, right? So that was his promotion level. To go from Jagat Guru to Buddha level, you always have to come down and go up. Always have to take an incarnation, work out, make sure that you're completely ready in this physical body. You cannot jump from your astral higher levels. You come down, take an incarnation, then he became a Buddha. Now, right now, Lord Maitreya, who is the Jagat Guru, who became the Jagat Guru after Gautama became Buddha. He's going to take the same path. He's going to take an incarnation, then come back, and he's going to be promoted to Buddha. So that's for the next sixth sub-rise. But yes, to drive the point home, this karma even doesn't leave when you're in the Buddha state too. To get promoted, you still have to come down, make your neutral karmas, and then go back to that extent, you're bound by this law, definitely.
Thank you. Another point about karma in the collection of writing of HPB, she mentioned that the teacher incur karma when not teaching the student at the right time. When the student go out and perform that teaching and get it wrong, the teacher get the majority of the karma.
Yes, true. I read
so
that.
Be careful what you say to people.
Oh.
It's spread, and you get all the karma. When it's spreading, it doesn't stop.
Sorry. Sorry if I made any mistakes. He's scaring me now. Yeah.
That's it. That's my last point.
He's giving me a... He's
Well,
giving me a
okay,
warning,
so
huh?
let's debate a little bit on that. Let's put this to a debate, because I don't truly, yeah. Okay, so say for example you arrive at the street corner, and there's the people that's standing there, they're looking for help, right? Would you give that money to that person or not? It's the question I have. And if you were to give that money, do you do it the moment that you finish giving that money? Now it's up to him or her to work out their karma. What they do with it is up to them. That's their karma. They're in control of that money right now. It's no longer bound to you, right? So I would say that you do your best in terms of controlling your own personal karma, because karma is nothing more than the volition deciding at this moment, at this present moment, right now, what am I going to do? Because the decision that you make at this particular moment become your action, or whether your thought and your thought become your action, and that drive the future. So I can make a decision to give the money to that person. It doesn't matter whether or not that person will do the right thing with that money, but my responsibility is to help out when it happened.
Yeah.
They need the help because if, for example, just take a simple scenario. If that person needed help, and if I didn't help, he go hungry or whatever happened, and he may not be here tomorrow. Whose karma did I just, by making the wrong decision of not giving that money, that person may not be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
That to me could be unacceptable.
One example I would like to give.
You just point out something that, but you only point to one side. If you help the person, right, and the person go and feed their family, that gives.
So Jamshed can be involved in the fun part, fun discussion.
So if you give the money to the person on the street,
Yes.
and the effect of your action, giving their family food and restore and not being hungry for that day, so you started that action.
Yes.
The ripple effect you cause is you bless them, use the human term bless, for the family. So your karma link to the not hungry people in that family, isn't it? Isn't
I
it?
beg to differ on that one point.
Isn't it? I mean, don't go too far. Your action feed that family. Is there a link? Yes or no?
Yes, there's a link.
Okay. Karma, I pointed out earlier, is a link.
I would say no on that point.
It's a link. Now, if you have whatever they do with it, you and that person and the whole thing and everything you touch and involve, linked.
Yeah, okay.
Go back
okay.
to the first fundamental. Everything and everyone are one. There's no separation between me and that person.
Yeah,
Isn't that true?
No, I agree. I completely agree with you.
Okay,
But
then
there's this concept, but this additional concept that we have to take into account, which is, if we take the example of a society, if I give money to someone, and that someone do something good or do something bad with that money, okay, then it's linked to me, yes. But however, I don't gain anything out of it. There's no
But your karma is linked, whether it benefits you or not, that you can see, you may not see it.
no, it all down.
but my understanding
no,
is
it's all
if-
tied to your intention. Everything
Yes,
is
yeah.
everything is tied to
the
your intention.
Not to a
What is
person
what is
in
my
particular.
intention when I give that money?
Exactly, I agree with that.
Yes.
So I'll just tell you one story based on this, right? This is a real life story. So Annie Besant, if you all know, her birthday is October 1st, right? So September 30th, every year, she cleans out her bank account. This is true, you can read in her accounts. She takes every penny out of her account and she donates it to the poor, to the needy. She comes to zero on September 30th midnight. She's zero in her bank account, her personal bank account. And it seems the very next day, people used to donate double that because everybody knew what she does. She donates double, she gets twice the amount that she needs. But one time, one person asked the same question. She used to regularly give money out to this one person who was a alcoholic. He drinks and he gets into trouble, but she knew that. She still gives him money. So one of the society members asked, why are you doing that? Do you know that he goes and drinks and wastes your money? You could have been giving it to some other person who's a good person. Why do you keep giving to him? Probably he was working as her gardener or something, but I don't know the back end of it. But the thing is, he was an alcoholic. He was not a of no good to person, but she used to give him money. So she said, see, for me, I know he needs money. I'm giving him money. My intention is good towards him. What he does with that money is not tied to me, right? I see that a person, maybe he's an addict. He has that weakness in him. He's not able to get over his alcohol addiction. And it's none of my concern. But I see that a human being is suffering. For what he is suffering, but he is in pain. Maybe because of his addiction, maybe he's in hunger. It makes no difference to me. For me, is the soul is in pain, I give him money. So that's it. There is no karma. My karma is my intention. I'm helping a suffering soul. What he does with it, it's his choice. It's left to him. So
yes,
that
I
kind of-
agree with the partial intention concept, but at the broader spectrum, everything is one. So you cannot go away by just driving saying intention. Intention occur at the lower level, but as a sum of everything in the cosmos, it affects everything else.
Yeah, there's
That's true.
universal karma.
Yes. So
yeah.
you cannot
I mean,
say
that
it's true if you have a small perspective of that. Yes, it is true. But if you broaden that perspective, it's no longer true. It affects everything else.
Yeah, there's collective
It
karma. Yeah, so
It's
So
called
you cannot say-
it comes on. It doesn't come under
So
individual
the
karma, it
intention
comes
only
under
serves
collective
at a
karmas.
smaller perspective. Yes, it is true. Intention. But as a whole, it affects everyone and everything in it.
Whatever we do,
So I rest my case.
Jamshid, do you have anything to add?
No, I've been trying to understand karma for a long time, and this has helped a lot. I
Yeah.
I think I agree with any Besson that my intention is to help. Now, whether the guy uses it for drugs or alcohol, that's his or her business.
Yeah.
I have done my good deed. So,
yeah, it go back to what like John said earlier about the Buddha saying, stay away from the bad and do the good. I think you do your part, but try to avoid do the bad, right? That's all it is.
As the beginning path, do the good. Farther down the path, do neither one of them.
Ty is going to give a next class Ty. Karma. Ty is karma. You're talking about karma next class.
See, the problem with that is, as long as we are born and incarnate into this society, there's no way you can get around it.
As long as we have a link.
Yeah, the moment you incarnate, you are bound, and you incur all that.
So if you have a thought, you are bound, not the moment you incarnate. Your thought make the incarnation happen. Not the incarnation make the thought happen. So the moment that you have a thought, you bound it already at that instant. Your thought start right now. What is it doing broadcasting? That's you creating link right now. And you building your future karma.
That's true.
I
That's
guess
true.
Yeah.
we continue this discussion.
Oh,
John
sorry.
has to leave.
Sorry that we
Yeah,
go
over
overboard. Sorry. Thank you,
Yeah,
John.
thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Jamshed.
That was it.
thank
Thanks,
you,
Jamshid.
Treat, for
Bye.
doing this on Zoom because I didn't want to miss it, but I'm in Austin. So,
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
I
Love
will
your-
stop
love your
the
backdrop.
recording.
Love your backdrop, Jim.